Welcome back to Java Programming for Beginners, and today I want to focus more on methods and maybe a little bit about objects, a little bit about classes. We're going to get a little bit more towards object-oriented programming today, but we're going to start off with making a new project because the one we were working on was kind of boring. It did not do anything at all, really. So we're going to say new project tutorial 2. You can call it whatever you want. And then we're going to right click on our source folder, say new class, and we're going to call this calculator. Alright, so like our last program, our calculator needs in our last program we made a main method. And when Java launches your program, the main method will be called first. And then our main method did some different operations. It wasn't very exciting. But you don't have to do everything in the main method, and I recommend that you don't. So we're going to make some other methods here to start off with. And the first one, since we're doing a calculator, we're going to add two numbers together. So we're going to make a method, and what you need to remember about methods is how you declare them. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to declare the return type of the method. So since we're adding two integers together, we're going to return an integer. And if this doesn't all make sense right away, it will make sense in a little bit. And then we'll just call it add, and then you put two parentheses, open brackets, and that's how you declare a method. Now it's going to give me a little error, and it's going to say add return statement because we told it that it's going to return an integer, and right now we're not returning anything. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that in just a second. Well, yeah, let's do that now. So we're going to create an integer called x, and we're going to set it equal to 5. And then we're going to create another integer called y and put it equal to 3. And then we'll say integer answer equals x plus y. Make sure you put your semicolons at the end of the line. And then the last thing we'll do is we're going to return our answer. And now you can see that our little error message went away. But if I were to run this program, it's going to be like, well, what is it? Java application? Yeah, that's what it is. We'll hit enter. Well, okay, and it'll say selection does not contain a main type. That's because Java just went through our program and it was like, okay, where do I start? I don't see a main method, so I don't know what to do. So let's tell Java where to start the program. So we're going to go down here and we'll make another method. And this one's going to be public static void main string args. And make sure you copy this exactly. You may not understand what all this means right now, but you will within the next couple tutorials because this is pretty dang important. So Java's going to go call this method, and we're going to go ahead and hit run and see what happens. Nothing happened because we don't have anything in our main method. Right now, if Java goes to the main method, it's like, cool, I don't have to do anything. So it's not going to do anything. So let's change that a little bit. We're going to say, we're going to call our add method. And our add method returns an integer. So we need to create a data type called integer. Well, an integer data type. And then we'll call it answer equals add. And so, hold on. So Eclipse is giving us an error right now. And this is when we start talking about object-oriented programming. And this may not make sense right away, but eventually it will. Because this is a class called calculator. And in order to access the add method of the calculator, you need a calculator. you can't add two numbers. Well, you can probably do 5 and 3 in your head, but you can't press, if you had a calculator, you can't press two buttons on a calculator and get an answer without actually having it in your hand. And I guess that's kind of a good way to explain it, I think. So what we need to do is get a calculator. So we're going to make a calculator type. You need to make sure you spell it exactly the way you have it up here. And then we'll say calculator calc equals new calculator. And now we have created an instance of this calculator class and assigned it to this calc variable. But now we can't call this add method. But, you know, it's kind of like if you have a calculator, you don't just say add. You have to pick up the calculator and press the add button, which is a plus sign. So what we need to do is we're going to get our calculator, which is called calc, and we're going to say dot add. And look, even Eclipse gives us a little suggestion. There's our add. And then make sure you put your semicolon. And now we have added 5 and 3 and stored that answer into this integer called answer. And so now we're going to give us some output. We're going to say system.out.println answer. And now let's hit run. 8. So that's correct. 5 plus 3 is 8. We've done everything correctly. Now, if you're looking at this, you're probably like, isn't there a way to do this a little bit better? I don't really need to do all these things. Well, you can. You can simplify this method a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote it this way. And actually, I'm going to go and simplify this all the way down to, because we don't need this answer variable if we're just going to add it here and then return an answer. So how about we just return x plus y? Now, does it still work? Of course it does, because we're still doing the same operation. But this is kind of stupid if every time I have to add these numbers, I have to go up here and change them here. Isn't there a way to, define those numbers down here when I call the add method, kind of like an actual calculator? Well, there is. Every method can accept parameters, and that's why there are parentheses at the end of every method. Right now, we don't have any parameters defined. And a parameter is basically a variable that the method is going to accept when it's called, and then you have access to that variable inside this method. So I can go up here and declare an integer x and an integer y. And now you see that Eclipse is giving me errors, and that's because of the variable scope, and we'll talk more about that later. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this. And now my method is very simple, but I still have an error down here because I need to pass my values of x and y to my method when it's called. So I can just say 3, 5. And so my 3 is my first parameter, and it's going to be assigned to x. And my 5 is my second parameter, and it's going to be assigned to y. And so now when I hit run, everything is still going to work okay. And my answer is 8. Now, if you're talking to another programmer and you start calling these parameters, they're going to be like, whoa, dude, what world are you living in? Because these are not, there's a small, tiny difference between parameters and arguments. An argument is a value that is passed to a method, and a parameter is a definition of variables in a method. So these are parameters, and these are arguments. Arguments are passed to parameters, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. So that's how a method works. Now there's a lot more to methods than just this, and I'm not going to cover everything in this tutorial, but I am going to show you how to simplify this code a little bit more. Because as you notice, we still have the same thing that we did up here. We have an integer called answer, and then we're calling it here. We're not making any changes to answer in between. So why don't we just call this method when we call at the same time that we call this method? And right now it's giving me an error, which is okay, so I'm going to delete this. But that was it. That was my error because I had an incomplete statement above this statement. So now when I play it or run it, I still get 8. And I can change these variables to maybe 10, and I would get 13. So our add method works completely. Now, we could also make a subtraction method. We could say integer sub, integer x, and we'll put our parameters in here and y, and we'll return x minus y. And so we can go down here and make another statement. It says system.out.println calc.sub 10 3. And so I should get 7 on the second line and 13 on the first one. And there we go, 13 on the first one and 7 on the second. So our subtraction works well too. Now, when you are programming, making methods like these are not really worth doing. I mean, we have a subtraction operator in Java, so why would we need to do a method that only makes it a little bit harder to do addition and subtraction? We don't really need it. And so, I mean, this example was just to show you guys how to do this, but I wouldn't want to see you guys using methods for this. So how about I give you guys a quadratic equation. And a quadratic equation is probably going to return a double. Well, actually, a quadratic equation is a little bit different. You would have to return 2 types, which I'm not going to get into right now. What you might want to do, well, you could do it this way. Let's not get into the quadratic equation. I'm trying to figure out something that would actually be useful, but not annoying kind of thing. What's a good one? I'm trying to think back to physics and be like, well, yeah, quadratic is the only thing I can think of. So we'll say quad positive, and then we'll accept integer a, b, and c, and we're going to return. And how does the quadratic equation work? It's negative b plus the square root, so we'll say math dot square root and I'm probably going a little overboard for this tutorial because we're not really going to use this for anything. Math dot square root b squared, so we'll say b times b minus parentheses 4 times a times c, and we'll put parentheses around the b squared just to be safe. And then you want to put parentheses around this entire thing because you need to divide by 2a. If you've never seen the quadratic equation, then this probably looks completely foreign to you. Actually, you cannot, you always have to put your operators in there. You can't just say 2a. And I guess we're missing a parenthesis. I don't feel like we're missing a parenthesis. Oh, we are. There needs to be another one right here. So that probably looks foreign to you guys. Foreign and complicated, but it really isn't. And we'll say quad negative. And you could use this to solve the quadratic formula, and we just have to change this to a negative. And we'll say system.out.println calc, lowercase calc, dot quad positive. And I'm not going to try to look this answer up. I'm just going to type in a few numbers. And then you want to make sure you have the same numbers for the negative method. And we get a not very good number. Apparently, we can't compute these numbers. That's not good. Let's use different numbers. Oh no, hold on, guys. Sorry about that, guys. If you ever use a quadratic equation, you know how annoying it could be. We were using numbers that gave us an unreal answer? I don't remember how you say for it. It was a not real answer, so. But if you run this with these numbers, 1, -4, and 4, I did the math, and the answer is 2 and 2. So that's how you do quadratic equations, which is something you would actually use in a game. I know I've done game programming before, and you use quadratic equations quite a bit. But so this would be something useful to do with methods and objects. So just a quick recap. This calculator is a object that we instantiated when we said new calculator and assigned to our calc variable. This class is sort of a blueprint for our calculator object. It's not an object, but it's kind of a blueprint for the object. But our calc object has access to the calculator methods, which are quad pos and quad neg. And so that's how everything works. We're going to get into more details of this kind of things in the next tutorial. I'll try to come up with a better example that's probably a little bit more interesting. I'm hoping by the end of the tutorial series we could start putting together a Java game or something, but right now you guys need to understand more about object-oriented programming. But for now, this is all I have, and thanks for watching, guys. If you want to catch my next video, make sure you subscribe. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below, and I will answer it. I'll see you guys next time.